Hi guys, Al here. Today we're going to review Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot by Paul Huson. Oh my god! It's really good. It's really, really good, guys. So I know that I brought up this book, The Mystical Origins of the Tarot, From Ancient Roots to Modern Usage by Paul Huson, in our last video, or the last review that I did, actually, the Medieval Scapini Tarot. And I said that this book would be like a fantastic source for getting in touch with like pre-Rider-Waite-Smith and pre-Golden Dawn ideas, especially learning about Attila minors, or Attila style ways of looking at the minor arcana. And so, yeah, I still believe that, and this book is absolutely wonderful and just a treasure of mine. It's a treasure of information about the ancient tarot and about the time from which tarot comes from. You know, I think if you really want to understand the way that tarot was looked at in the time that it sort of comes from, you have to look at the philosophy of the times, the beliefs of the times, and everything else that was going on at the time. And he really does sort of incorporate all that juicy goodness into this wonderful book. And he's also incorporated it into his amazing deck here. So what he's done, Paul Huson, is he's taken the images, these line drawings that he did for the book that I just showed you guys, and turned them into an unbelievably beautiful tarot deck. Side note, by the way, Paul Huson, I'll put a link below to his website and everything, but he's also written like a bunch of other really awesome books. He wrote a classic book on the tarot, The Devil's Picture book, from back in 1971, and a handful of other books and novels, some about witchcraft and herbalism and ESP and all sorts of really cool shit. Check them out. So the deck itself came out back in 2009. It is a 79 card deck. It comes with one extra card, a beautiful significator card that I will show you in a second. And like the last deck we reviewed, the Medieval Scapini, it has these like Attila-inspired minors. And don't let that freak you out. Some things may be a little bit different. So I can't recommend the book highly enough, but even the Little White Book and his extended Little White Book that's available online, I'll put a link below to that too, does really elaborate on the meanings of the cards. But I mean, just, you know, Attila minors in and of themselves are what MacGregor Mathers and what Arthur Edward Waite based all their card meanings on to begin with. It really is nothing that's too different from our own modern interpretations. And of course, you know, Arthur Edward Waite led to this whole kind of Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, and MacGregor Mathers and what sort of became the Golden Dawn, that whole tradition. It all comes from these older Attila meanings. And I'm doing this, my little quotations, because these interpretations and these card meanings that I refer to as coming from Attila aren't necessarily from Attila really either. He stated himself that the meanings that he utilizes and expands on and talks about were already traditional by the time he got his hands on them, you know. So who knows where these meanings originate, you know. It's just part of the magic that is tarot. And the meanings and the interpretations all seem to really make a whole lot of sense, right? That it just all works. It covers everything. You have the numbers, you have the suits, you have the interplay, and they're intermixing, and it's just wonderful. So while this deck does have some things in common with the Medieval Scapini, this deck still has that medieval feel to it a bit. It really does. The images that he uses, a lot of them make reference to Marseille decks, to the Estensi Tarot, to the Mantegna Tarot, and to just medieval and Renaissance artwork and ideas and philosophy. All that amazing goodness is in here. But at the same time, can you see some of those images? It doesn't feel like an actual old deck. There's something a bit modern about it. I think a lot of it has to do with the style of artwork that he has and the way he colors everything. It comes together in kind of a cool way. I've heard I don't remember where I read it, but I think he said somewhere about this deck, like, think stained glass from the Chartres Cathedral, something like that. And it does. It feels like they're almost stained glass images with light bursting through them. They're really, it's beautiful artwork. Here's the other side of the box. That is a male on the star card, by the way. Ooh, what? What is happening? So cool. But it is your standard Lo Scarabeo tuck box. Doopy doopy doo. The side of the box here reads, the elegance of the Marseille Arcana and the intuition of Attila in one innovative work with classic styling thanks to the work of Paul Huson, researcher, author, and extraordinary artist. Yes, yes, yes. It's not really, though, it's not just the Marseille majors. Like, that's not all that's in the major arcana here. I'll show you when we get there. It's really cool. Oh, this is just an extra title card here that it comes with. That's what the backs of the cards look like. And here is the little white book that it comes with. It is your standard Lo Scarabeo little white book. And by that I mean, there's your contents. The English portion is only about 15 pages, and it includes 5 languages, English, Italian, Spanish, French, and German. But it's a good little white book. Like I said, there is an expanded little white book available for download from his website. I will put a link to both down below. So it's great what's in here, but there is, excuse me, like for each major, like this is what you get for the majors, a teensy little bit. But online, it's like a good big paragraph for each, and even lots more keywords for the minor arcana too. This is good. This is great to have. I honestly never go to it because I have that PDF file. That actually a lot of that stuff made its way into my tarot journals. It's really good. He put himself out there and illustrated these Attila minors, and that's really the whole reason that I was drawn to this deck in the first place. I loved his book, but to see how these minors could be illustrated and could be envisioned was just what it was all about for me. The artwork, I think, I thought it was pretty at the time, but the more I've worked with it, the more I've even come to appreciate the beautiful artwork. This was originally really just a study deck for me. And I hope that that's something that's sort of coming across in the videos that I'm working on now, where it's like one video for each tarot card. In those videos where I talk about what the whole range of meaning of that one particular tarot card is for me personally, or at least trying to cover most of it in one 20-minute video. But I hope one of the things that's coming across is how these old Attila meanings and the Golden Dawn meanings, a Marseille meaning, a Rider-Waite-Smith, all of these different things really aren't that different. Even if I don't make specific reference to where each idea has come from, I think that, in my view, they really do all seamlessly work together and fit together. And that's one of the reasons why I love, like, Christine Payne Towler's Tarot of the Holy Light. She does the same thing. She weaves all the different esoteric traditions, the Attila meanings, the cartomantic meanings, the Rider-Waite-Smith, everything, the astrological, the Golden Dawn, and into one singular story that works. And it does work. It's cool. All right, guys. Here is how I keep my Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot. It's like a Greek Medusa, but it's also like an octopus. Can you see that also? Isn't that cool? It just kind of works for the Wheel Tarot, I thought, with her 8 spirals. Anyway. And I thought it matched to the back of the deck very beautifully also. Here, by the way, guys, is what the extended little white book, the PDF file, kind of looks like. It's about 33 PDF file pages. Some of it is the same as little white book, but just expanded on. Especially this part was really quite good, where he talks about different layouts and different ways of reading the cards. He talks about, what's it called, Attila's sortilege, or this lot drawing, this way of just kind of drawing one card at a time and thinking on it, and and all sorts of other spreads. You have your Rider-Waite Celtic Cross, you have a horoscope layout, a 42 card layout. This stuff is fantastic. And then here around page 8 or 9 starts the major arcana, and then all the way down throughout the through to the minors. That's what that kind of looks like. Don't know if that's legible. Anyway, it is invaluable. Okay guys, here are our beautiful cards. Like I said, the backs are completely reversible. There's really nothing that is non-reversible about them. They are geometric, they are the same upright or reversed. Wonderful. And it really is quite a beautiful pattern. Again, it reminds me of those stained glass church windows, right? And here are our cards. So this is the 79th card. This is your significator card. It comes with one significator card. And you base this on Atella having a significator card, the Atella card. And it's really quite a cool card. Take a look here. It's based on some medieval manuscript drawing, I believe. And you can see very clearly, right, this person with all the signs of the zodiac laid out against the body where they correspond to that part of the body. So it goes from Aries associated with the head all the way down to Pisces associated with the feet. But it's a great universal card, you know, perfect for any situation. You can choose to use it, you can choose to set it aside. You can choose to use a major arcana card as your significator or a court card, or, you know, what the hey ever. And another thing you'll notice here is this card is how the rest of the cards actually look. Also, even though they're Lo Scarabeo cards, they do not have those crazy Lo Scarabeo borders on them with like the 20 different languages all over the cards and whatnot. It's just in English, at least my version anyway. And here is our beautiful Fool card. Now, like I said before, all the majors are not necessarily Marseille based. I certainly see a lot of influence from other, you know, old continental tarot decks, the Estensi tarot in particular. You can see a lot of references to old Renaissance woodcuts. You can see references to things like the Mantegna tarot or the Mantegna paintings, which utilize a lot of virtues depicted. You see a lot of that in here. It's great. And definitely some Marseille also. So this one is definitely a Marseille style Fool. He says it's like you know, based on the Convert Fool. Very classic. All the majors, you will see this whole deck is really color coded, so it makes it just that much more easy to read. It's really cool. All the majors, you see that sort of background coloring, they all have this sort of still have the white border, but like a burnt orange border around the image, and the background where the writing is and everything is always this, what do you call it, like a yellowy greenish kind of a color. The Fool was unnumbered, by the way. And that brings us to number 1, the Juggler. He's the juggler, not the magician, not the magus. The Juggler. Very cool way to go here, I think. And this one, he says it comes from like a Renaissance woodcut. And it still feels like rather a classic magician card still, you know. You see this scene taking place on a lot of magician cards. And then he talks about associations with Mercury and things like that. It's really neat, though. There's not necessarily overt references to anything Kabbalistic, to anything astrologic or alchemical. You can layer it on if you wish. I certainly choose to do that. But there's nothing like that inherently, or that really jumps out at you along those lines. This can be a very cartomantic style deck, if you wish. And number 2, which would be your high priestess or your popess, he's here titled it the female pope. You'll see a lot of the same ideas that we saw in the medieval Scapini tarot here in this guy. You know, you have classic names for your court cards. You have the original ordering of the cards, more classic naming and classic numbering. The female pope, and Huson talks about in his book all the Pope Joan references there. Very cool. And here's your Empress card. You guys know I'm not always a fan of Empress cards, but there is something badass about this Empress. Isn't she neat? There's something dark about her. I really, really enjoy this one. Now, this particular Empress, Paul Huson says he draws his inspiration from these, like, 15th century Milanese woodblock prints that were a tarot deck that were never colored or never printed, maybe, something like that. So it's very unique. But she's still clearly and classically the Empress, you know, she still looks familiar. There's definitely something very Marseille looking about her. Now, something else that he sort of does in the Little White Book and the extended one is he talks a lot about like actual historic figures, or even if they're fictional figures that people in medieval times might have recognized in the specific cards, even throughout the minors. It's something that you still see to this day in the court cards of French playing cards. They still have, or they used to have, I don't know if they still do, but the name of an historical person like Charlemagne, or some sort of mythical fictional character on the card too, associated with that particular court card. And that tradition he's even kept in this deck. You'll see when we get to the court cards, all the courts except for the knights all have a name on them associated with an actual character. And reading his stuff, you get the same thing for all the majors here, pretty much. It's really fascinating. He goes into stories about the Empress and the Emperor and who they might represent, if you choose to look at it that way. And I think it's cool. I don't think it necessarily takes anything away from them being actual archetypes and all those sorts of ideas, and big energies and astrological influence. No, it's just another layer for you to add to your understanding of the cards. And Huson, in no way, too, even though it does talk about, the history of the tarot and all the different meanings that have come down through the ages, he still understands that tarot is an intuitive tool, you know? He explains even the Little White Book, how when you're learning to read tarot, yes, memorize some of the meanings, and then bam, as soon as you're ready, like, you're going to take off and leave those traditional meanings behind. And I just love that. It's wonderful. And there's your Emperor card, which comes from the same Milanese woodblock remnants that the Empress came from. And here's number 5, named the Pope, a very Marseille stylized looking image. And Love is number 6. This one comes from a medieval manuscript, I believe, of the rose on the shield. They're very almost simple images, especially compared to the last deck we reviewed, the medieval Scapini, with so much going on each card. They almost feel like a breath of fresh air right now after looking through that deck. And I love both of them, but sometimes simplicity is delightful. And here is number 7, the Chariot. And this is another Convert-inspired image, or Marseille-inspired. And that brings us to number 8, Justice, and to our first virtue that is depicted in the tarot. If you've studied, tarot, the idea of virtues has undoubtedly come up lots of times. There's classic virtues, some of them depicted in every tarot deck. And it is definitely a focal point of Huson's deck here. He makes sure that all 4 cardinal virtues are here. Prudence, the one missing cardinal virtue, is actually depicted on the world card here. So you have the 4 cardinal virtues, and each one of these actually rules over the entirety of one of the suits in the minor arcana, which is a very, very nice little touch and makes perfect sense. I really love that idea. It also puts you in touch with this medieval mindset, what they would see in these cards, what these images mean in the time from which they came. So this is Justice, one of your virtues, and she actually rules over the entire suit of swords here. And lastly, real quick, the inspiration for this image comes from the Estensi Tarot. It comes from the Charles VI Tarot, or the, I can never pronounce the other name for it, Grigoniers, something like that. Well, you know what? I actually grabbed the deck. Hang on a second. So this is my copy of that deck. Lo Scarabeo calls it the Golden Tarot of the Renaissance. And this is more of a restoration. There's only something like, I think, 16 or 17 cards that remain to this day of this deck, mostly of the majors. So all the cards have actually been redrawn, and then the missing cards have been created to go with this deck, with some beautiful gold background. But let me pull out the Justice card here. I will review this deck at some point. It's a really cool deck. Yeah, check it out. So that's the Justice card from the Estensi Tarot. This is one of the original paintings for it. He's even, they all have this, even all of the virtues in the Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot all have these sort of pointed halos around their heads. But here you can clearly see that that's where the inspiration has come from. He's changed quite a bit, but it's clearly, you know, the same image. Beautiful. And here is your Hermit card, and it's one of those awesome kind of old style Father Time images. And check it out, the Estensi Tarot is also where he drew his inspiration from for the Hermit card. Look at that gold, so good. And moving on to the Wheel of Fortune. Now, this Wheel of Fortune is, oh God, it's one of my favorite cards in the deck. Check this out. It depicts Dame Fortune herself, right there in the center, blindfolded, winged, turning the wheel of fate. And, you know, Dame Fortune is sort of just how in the Middle Ages the Roman goddess Fortuna evolved into this Dame Fortune idea, her and her powers of fate. And Huson says that this image is actually a popular way for her to have been depicted in those times. There's her turning the wheel with these four people all around it at different stages of of life, of fate. And what they're saying here is, I will reign, I reign, I have reigned, and I am without reign. Isn't that gorgeous? Dame Fortune, the namesake of the deck. And a side note, check this out. You actually see the same, pretty much the same exact scene depicted in the Visconti Sforza and the Piermont Morgan one. Isn't that cool? Literally the same thing. And that brings us to number 11, our Strength card, here called Fortitude. And what? Check that out! Where's the lion? Oh my god, it's not there! And this is another card based on the Estensi Tarot, as is, I think, the next one, the Hanged Man. Let me grab it. There she is. This is also the second virtue that we come to in the deck, and Huson has equated it with the suit of batons here, or wands. And you can see the cool halo that all comes right out of the Estensi Tarot. And it's not the first deck to have ever depicted the strength figure without the lion. It's just sort of an alternate way that it's been depicted over the years. It's not even always a woman. Sometimes it's a man, more like sometimes it seems to be telling the story of Sansom or Hercules or Heracles breaking the column here. Yeah, there's our second virtue, though, strength or fortitude. And number 12, the Hanged Man, like I said, also, here you go, is very, very much inspired by the Estensi image. And here's number 13, your Death card. This is actually another one that gets its inspiration from the Estensi. Here's something that looks more like the original. Like I said, these have all been repainted, redone. But you can see, sorry, if I put them both on camera, you can see just how similar. I like his Rambo headband here. And of course we do know that this card was originally given the title of Death. There's plenty of old decks that actually have the title of Death on it. but probably for superstitious reasons, the name was left off in lots and lots of decks. And he's chosen to continue with that. Very cool. The Unnamed Death card. And that brings us to our third virtue of the four cardinal virtues that we have here in our tarot deck, in this tarot deck anyway. And that's number 14, Temperance. And here she is from the SD or Stenzi Tarot, Charles VI. I won't keep naming all the names. When we do a review of this deck, I'll talk about how it got all these different names and where they all come from. But you can see her there with her pointed halo, and Temperance rules over the suit of coins. And here is our oh so unique and kind of funny looking, I love his chicken feet, our devil here. The face down the crotch like you see in a lot of old Marseille decks. I feel like this devil does sort of have a bit of a different style than the rest of the cards. He's a little bit more abstract feeling, and I kind of like that for the devil. I think it works. I'm not sure, I don't think this devil card actually comes from any specific inspirational source. It seems to sort of be his own creation. But he does talk about how, excuse me, how in medieval plays, you know, the devil figure would be represented by someone just wearing like a horned mask and these costumes like this. So that's sort of what I always see when I look at this devil. It actually is someone dressed up as a devil in a medieval play of some sort. And here is our Tower card, number 16. And this tower is kind of cool, actually. I really like it. There's no images of people actually falling here. It's just the tower struck by lightning and ablaze with fire. Apparently, this inspiration comes from like an uncut page of woodblock prints coming from like 15th century Ferrara or Venice or something like that. It's a good tower, and he just went with the tower for the title. And here's an interesting one. This is our star card, like I showed on the front of the box there. That is actually a man, if you look closely. You don't have to look that closely. There it is. And there's a dolphin in the water. He's still doing classic star card stuff, you know, pouring out the two jugs of water, and you have the classic stars in the sky kind of thing. He says he gets his inspiration, again, from these uncut Milanese 15th century, I think, woodblock prints. And he says the gender is, not easily recognizable, or it looks to be a man to him. His thoughts on the sex in the star card is really fascinating, and is in his book or the Little White Book, whatever. It's really cool. He even there he talks about how the image of the star card seems very much in line with the figure from the zodiac sign Aquarius, you know, the water bearer dumping out the jugs of water. Even the reason he added the fish or the dolphin over here, I think, is cool. It has to do with the constellation next to Aquarius, dumping the jugs into the constellation of the southern fish. Everything has a reasoning behind it. It's a fascinating deck. And here is your moon card. Something about the coloration of this card I just adore. Isn't it gorgeous? You have your eclipse here, very classic Marseille style image. And this, the moon card, and the next card here, the sun, are both very clearly Marseille-derived images. Look at that sun. Very classic. Here's your judgment card, number 20. And this appears to be just sort of his own take on the classic kind of Marseille judgment style card. It just has a unique look to it, I think, just because of the perspectives and the way people are facing and things. It's a really beautiful card. And then on to the World card. Now this card is so interesting to me. Paul Huson and lots of other people, I think, have claimed to see the virtue Prudence here, and that's what he goes with in this deck. The card itself is actually based on, again, the Estensi tarot. You can see she's a virtue, she has her pointed halo and everything, and it's pretty much the same image. He did add, instead of just holding the coin and the wand, she's holding the coin and a wand that's enwrapped with a snake, or by a snake, giving her that classic prudence, the virtue Prudence, how she classically appears. It's interesting because there's so many Attila associations in this deck, and Attila himself associated that specific virtue Prudence actually with his Hanged Man card. So there's always lots of lively debate in the tarot forums and all over the place as to if Prudence, the virtue, appears in the tarot deck, which tarot card she is actually associated with. I think both sides of this argument are fascinating. Hang on, let me grab my Attila card. Okay, side note for a quick second. Here is basically an Attila Prudence card, the virtue Prudence. Now, it actually is numbered number 12, but you can't always go by that because Attila changed the ordering for the trumps and things like that. But more or less, it really is number 12. It is the Hanged Man because there is no other card. That is the Hanged Man. And the argument goes, actually, I'm just going to sum it up briefly and not go into much detail, but that the Hangman card, it was never meant to be reversed like this, never meant to be hanging upside down, that in fact it's him jumping, him or her, I guess, whatever, jumping up, surprised by a snake down here, which gives it that Prudence reference in a way, but that he really isn't hanging. It's a snake biting his foot or something, and he's jumping away from it, surprised. And it's a fascinating little argument. I think that the reversal of the Hanged Man is such an important, interesting aspect to the tarot itself that it's hard to imagine it without that. But the argument is a fascinating one, and the inclusion of Prudence, the virtue, and all the virtues in the tarot is a really fascinating thing to look at. So regardless of all that, you still have, here in this deck, Prudence is the World card, and she also rules over the entirety of the suit of coins, as we shall see in a minute. But yeah, it's really cool, all the medieval philosophy, the medieval stories and theater and plays that he discusses in accordance or in relation to this deck and these images. A lot of Neoplatonic ideas. It all intermixes. Alright guys, moving on into our minor arcana, we come to the Ace of Batons. They are batons, not wands in this deck. Excuse me, and like I said, the entire deck is like color-coded, so all your wands are going to be this blue background pretty much with a lighter blue border, and then all your cups are this darker blue with a dark blue border. All your swords here are orange with a lighter orange border, and then your coins are green with a slightly darker green border maybe. We should be able to actually go through these cards fairly quickly. Like I said, check out the book, and you can even check out the Little White Book online. Like I'm going to put a link to below if you want to see more examples of what the cards mean and where they come from and how they fit into your own personal way of looking at the cards. I think for the most part that you will find that they are not that different and can easily be sort of worked into your understanding of the cards. Of course, if you are already familiar with these meanings, it's just delightful to see them illustrated out in such a wonderful way. Like the medieval Scapini has scenes taking place on each of the minors. It makes learning Attila and working with other Attila decks just so much more understandable and intelligible, and that's what this deck did for me, and I will forever be grateful to it for that. Now here in all the minors, actually, you really do see reference to the classic like alchemical elemental associations where you have fire for the wands, water for the cups, and so on and so forth. The only thing that is a little bit different in this deck. Actually, just like in the medieval Scapini, you have those references to classic cartomancy, to playing card suit associations, right? So, and whereas in that deck, for the wands, you had the clubs and the cups, hearts, spades for the swords, and diamonds for the coins. The only thing, you'll see the same kind of thing throughout this deck, where there's references to that, like you see the diamonds all over the suit of batons here, of wands here. And that switch is really made because of Attila. With his cartomancy, he associated batons with diamonds, not necessarily the elemental association there changes, but the association of wands with the diamonds and the association of his coins with the clubs. You'll see when we get to that suit, there's leaves and club suit signs all over it. But as you can see with like all the acorns and the growth and trees, I still think that there's strong fire associations with the batons here, and the same goes for the suit of coins. There's very strong earth elemental associations there, if you choose to look at it that way. I have heard that some people don't necessarily love like the color choices that he's chosen to use throughout the suits, like the light blue for the wands. You know, I think some people would have rather seen like the bright orange that's in the suit of swords here in the suit of wands to invoke that fire energy. But either way, I think it's really just, I love the color coding itself. I think it's fantastic. Here is your 8 of batons. And this you see on most of the cards too, where the scene really is almost sometimes just like half the card, and the other half is more like a classic pip card. So it pulls from both, which is just wonderful. And here is your 9 of batons, same kind of thing. And I just love this 10 of wands. Isn't it great? It's like this serpent coiled up around a tree. It's like the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. And this serpent here is waiting to tempt Eve. And you do see a lot of these biblical references and references to theater and even all the good old-fashioned esoterica, all Levi and Attila, Court to Keblin, Worth, all those people are, and their ideas are discussed in depth by Paul Huson. So here's the other thing I was talking about before, which is just absolutely wonderful, how the court cards here all have a name associated with them. At least the knaves, the pages are knaves here. The knaves, the queens, and the kings all have a name associated with them, not the knights. And that is because in playing cards, there are no knights. They are also classically depicted court cards, you could say, where the page is always standing, holding a suit sign, the knight is always on horseback, the queen and the king are both throned. So actually, this does change. Like classically, I guess it's not really changed, but for me in my head it is a little bit. I don't necessarily follow the Attila association of diamonds for the suit of wands here. For me, this would be clubs, like how it is in the medieval Scapini. And classically, it is the jack of diamonds that is called Hector. So those associations are followed. Diamonds for here, even in the court card names. All right, that aside, this is Hector of Trojan War and Iliad fame, the great leader of the Trojan War, who, if I remember correctly, actually was sort of against the war even, but a great soldier, a great warrior. And then the knight, like we said, does not have a either historic or a fictional or mythic, biblical, whatever character associated with it. And then we get to the queen here, and this is Rachel, who is the queen of batons here, but in classic playing cards, Rachel is represented by the queen of diamonds. And look at all the diamonds on her dress. And a lot of the names chosen for the cards, they are the classic associations, but there's often multiple various ways that you can interpret it. Rachel is one of the cards, and there's a handful of others, I'll point them out as we get there, where it can either be like a biblical interpretation or a historical figure. And this is one of them. There's a card coming up, I think it's the King of Hearts, that is classically either Charles or Charlemagne. And Charles probably referring to Charles VII, and if that card is Charles VII, it's interesting that this card, Rachel, it was also the name of his mistress. So there's lots of different ways to look at these things. It's really cool. Caesar, I think, is referring to probably the one and only Julius Caesar, but your king here is Caesar. Very cool. And that's the end of our batons. And on into our cups. This is your Ace of Cups. All the aces are names. Look at the beautiful flowers behind and all the hearts all over the big fountain goblet. Hearts, hearts, hearts. You'll see hearts everywhere. Two of Cups. Isn't that a rich, beautiful card? I do love the coloring, especially in the suit of cups. It's got this dark blue and this kind of a teal, almost green throughout. It is very watery. It's gorgeous. Four of Cups. So you just, in a lot of them, you really do get the same feeling that is evoked, that you feel from like a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Same thing here in the five. And I think it's really interesting, too, that the source inspiration for most of the minor arcana cards have come from all sorts of different sources, different medieval manuscripts, medieval books, medieval paintings, theater, even from other tarot decks. Again, you'll see scattered throughout the minor arcana references to other cards and other decks. Good, Seven of Cups. This astronomer kind of guy. He looks actually very similar to things you see in the moon cards and the star cards in old Marseille decks too, old tarot decks. Your Eight of Cups. Huson's pretty good actually throughout the extended little white book about sharing where he gets his inspiration from for most of the cards. Your Nine of Cups, the Wish card, your classic Wish card. Let me zoom in here. Isn't that lovely? And you still got your kind of classic pip thing going on there. And your Ten of Cups. You've come home. All right, and on into our court cards. That one's a little bit hard to read on the camera, but it says Paris up there. The Knave of Cups here is Paris. Again, another sort of Trojan War hero, right? But I kind of like Paris as the Knave of Cups in the suit of romance and love and relationships because of the whole like Helen of Troy thing. I think it's also interesting, too, to note here that the Jack of Cups in some French playing card decks isn't Paris, it's actually Lahire, H-I-R-E, Lahire, how I say it. But that character, that historic person is a really interesting one, I think. He also joined the army of Charles VII. He later fought alongside Joan of Arc, and he was sort of known for being this grouchy, kind of bad-tempered person. He had that sort of a temperament, which I think also is so cool for the Jack of Cups, or the Knave of Cups, or the Jack of Hearts. They both work really well, I think. Here is your Knight of Cups. And then here your Queen is Judith herself. Love the Judith biblical tale. She's a powerful heroine. Very cool. And here's that Charlemagne card I was talking about. He actually designates him as Charlemagne in this deck. Sometimes he's just Charles in other playing cards. And here is your Ace of Swords. Look at that beautiful orange, bright color you have for the swords. It actually, in my opinion, eases up on the doom and gloom of the suit of swords by coloring it a little bit more brightly. I actually really enjoy that. So everything has these. That one's still very dark. But even if the background of the card changes like it does here, there is still behind the words and that whole orange border around, so it's still very easy to identify very quickly what suit you're looking at in a reading. There's your Four of Swords. That looks familiar. Very Rider-Waite-Smith. Here's your Five. A dark night sky. Really like that too, actually. And then you do see lots of spades sort of scattered throughout here also in really interesting ways. I think you see a lot on the court cards, I believe. And here is your Eight of Swords. Your criticism, I think, is a key word. And here's your Nine of Swords. This is such an interesting card, how it's evolved and changed over time to the more modern, anxiety, nightmare kind of a thing card. Like you see on the Rider-Waite-Smith. I think here he's really expressing this older idea of purity, honesty, and how that can even be a little bit painful at times. You see all the swords behind him, a bit imposing there. It's still a bit of a uneasy place to be, but it's interesting how the cards evolved over the years. This one speaks to me a little bit more the way like the Mary L does. You're getting there. You're the 9. You're almost through. And here in the Ten of Swords, you have almost a bit of a classic thing. It's a woman stabbed in the heart by a spear, and it's supposed to be actually Mary, like the mother of Jesus, weeping and crying and grieving. It works. All right, on into our court cards for the swords. Your Knave of Swords is, I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it. I usually see it spelled with an H, H-O-G-I-E-R, Ogier, maybe something like that. And he was one of the knights of Charlemagne himself. Here is the Knight of Swords. See those spades, spades, love it. And Pallas Athena herself on the Queen of Swords. I think this is another card, though, too. I would most often associate Pallas with Pallas Athena, but there are several personalities out there that it's interesting to look into, even to help you understand more about the nature of the Queen of Swords. These characters are really interesting. One of the other ways you can go with this, then, too, I think Huson talks about it also, but that it's a nickname for Joan of Arc herself, and throughout all the court cards in classic French playing card court cards, you will see lots of references to Joan of Arc and her whole entire story, so that even fits in really quite well. And your King of Swords is none other than King David himself. How cool is that? King David, or David from the Old Testament, David and Goliath. All right, and on into our last suit. Again, you will see, like I talked about before in the clubs or batons, how the coins here, because of Attila's associations, really seem to be still earth in this deck, but they are represented with clubs sort of throughout, just like you see here on the ace. It still feels super earthy to me. I don't personally follow those Attila cartomantic associations for the playing cards and the suits, but it's really not that distracting for me here. Here is the Two of Coins. And everything is green, background, bright green border, very full of life and earthly concerns. Here's your Three of Coins. You even see a big clover on the flag there, a big club image. Three of Coins. Here is your Four of Coins, and this card, I believe, comes from like an old Renaissance book of allegories or something like that, and it's an image of plenty with her cornucopias dumping out abundance everywhere. Not happy gentleman down there. Five of Coins here is actually kind of similar to the medieval Scapini card that we just looked at. Like the lovers are so preoccupied with what they are doing and themselves that they don't notice anything going on around them, like how poor they are and their rags they are wearing. And then your Six of Coins sometimes has to do with a gift or a present, and also definitely has to do with the present moment. And I love this one also, I think, comes from the book of allegories or something like that. But I love that she's ringing a bell, like right now, do it now, in the present, live in the moment. Here's your Seven of Coins. I think this is such an interesting way that he went about depicting this card. It's all about, I'm not going to get too into it, money, but also innocence. And I love that the woman approaching the money lender maybe is carrying a lamb, a symbol of innocence and naivety maybe. Isn't that cool? So good. Some of these are so original. What just a great way to interpret these old classic traditional meanings. Your Eight of Coins, creating things. Your Nine of Coins, card of accomplishment, really. She's building and working, her courtly dress. And your Ten of Coins, kind of a classic, beautiful family and home image again. All right, and on into our last court cards. Here you see Lancelot himself as the Knave of Coins. Lancelot and Guinevere with his club on his chest. This Clover, your Knight of Coins on horseback. Argene, or Argina, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but she's an interesting one. Some people say that it's simply meant to be an anagram of Regina, which it is, Regina being Latin for queen, I think itself. But there's also stories about her with coming from like Greek mythology. They say she's supposed to be the mother of Argus. There's all these different interpretations. Wikipedia that shit. It's really interesting. And the King of Coins is none other than Alexander the Great himself. And look at how he's depicted here. So powerful. The great conqueror. Student of Aristotle. And that brings us back to the beginning, back to our significator card and our Fool. And that, my friends, is Dame of Fortune's Wheel Tarot. Like I said, it is your typical Lo Scarabeo cardstock. Shuffles beautifully. It is your standard Lo Scarabeo size, basically standard tarot card size. But that is the beautiful deck. That is the box it comes in, and I friggin' love this deck. It helped me understand Tella so much better. Paul Huson is a god. The deck is beautiful, wonderful to work with. Can't recommend it highly enough. I will put all those awesome links down below for you, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.